We all have networks, right? Professional contacts, social media followers, all those online connections. But what if all that social capital could become, well, actual capital? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a new model that's designed to do exactly that. Turn the connections you already have into a real source of income.
And this question, right here, it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, this isn't just about some new platform, it's about getting in on a much larger movement, a whole tech shift that's changing how business gets done. It really sets the stage for a new way of looking at opportunity. So you might be asking, why is a new approach like this even necessary? Well, it really boils down to two big problems. On one side, you've got these ancient, outdated systems holding businesses back. And on the other, there's all this incredible untapped potential just sitting inside our digital networks. Let's break that down a bit. For so many businesses, finding reliable suppliers can be a complete nightmare. They're stuck dealing with these old-school procurement systems. Think about it. Endless paperwork, closed-off lists of who you can work with, and crazy high costs just to get your foot in the door. The source material calls these old bars, and they really do create huge barriers that make it so hard for businesses to connect and grow.
And then there's the other side of the problem, which might hit a little closer to home for you. Maybe you run a popular TikTok shop, or you've built a huge following on X or LinkedIn. You've got a great professional network, but is it actually doing anything for you? For a lot of people, it just feels like shouting into a void. You get the likes, you get the engagement, but there's no real, tangible return. And that is the untapped potential we're talking about.
Okay, so we've got clunky old systems on one side and these massive, untapped networks on the other. So let's talk about the solution that's being put on the table here, a platform called SourceKe.
At its core, SourceKe is described as an ecosystem. And that word is really key here. It's not just another marketplace. It's meant to be a fully connected environment for buyers, suppliers, and all kinds of other professionals. And its mission is pretty clear. First, make the complicated world of procurement way simpler. And second, on a much bigger scale, build a legacy that lasts.
Now, ecosystem is a great word, but it can also sound like just another piece of jargon, right? So what does it actually mean? How does this thing really work? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of it all.
First things first, let's talk scale. The platform is aiming for an initial community of 5,000 active members. So this isn't some small niche little group. We're talking about building a pretty substantial and lively community right from the very beginning.
And what are all these people going to be doing? Well, they'll have access to opportunities across more than 140 different categories. I mean, that's a huge range. And it's important because it shows this ecosystem isn't just for one specific industry. It's designed to be a flexible space for all kinds of different business needs.
The whole system is really propped up by these three main ideas, or pillars. First, trust and verification, which is, absolutely essential. Second, an inclusive network, which is about more than just simple connections. And third, rewards for engagement, which is all about keeping the whole thing active and growing. Let's take a quick look at each one.
All right, so let's start with trust. Because let's be real, if you can't trust the people you're doing business with, none of this works. SourceKe seems to be tackling this head-on, with features like what they call My Trust Passport and a system for checking out verified references from past jobs. The whole point is to make sure that when you connect with someone, you know they're legit.
Next up, this idea of an inclusive network. What that really means is that it's not just a two-way street between buyers and suppliers. The ecosystem is designed to bring in everybody else who's part of the process. Logistics partners like warehouses and transporters, and even financiers. It's the whole shebang, a complete business environment. And finally, we've got the rewards. This is how you keep the ecosystem buzzing. The process is super simple. Members can tag the platform on social media, share what they're doing, and earn points for that engagement. Then, they can use those points to upgrade their accounts. It creates this really nice feedback loop of activity and reward. Okay, so we've seen how the platform itself is supposed to work. Now for the really important part. Where do you fit in? And how can you actually start earning from all this? So the platform is specifically on the lookout for partners who have already built up an audience or a network. This could be anybody from someone running a successful TikTok shop to an influencer with a really dedicated following, or even a professional who just has a rock-solid list of industry contacts. If any of that sounds like you, then this is aimed right at you. And here's where it all clicks. You have the assets, that digital audience or that professional network. The platform gives you the opportunity to use that asset to connect businesses with the solutions they need. So, for example, a tech influencer could connect a startup with a verified software developer from the platform.
And in return for making that connection happen, you earn a commission. It's that simple. Now, the way this is all being framed, it's not just about another freelance gig or a side hustle. The idea is much, much bigger than that. It's really about joining a movement that's trying to build something new, something fundamentally different. And this brings us right back to that core idea from the beginning. It's basically a call to action. A call to shift your mindset from just passively posting content into that digital void to actively using your network to build something that has tangible value, not just for you, but for others too.
So the next step is pretty straightforward. If this whole idea resonates with you, if you're sitting there thinking, hey, I have the network and I have the motivation to make this work, well, the invitation is right there. The door is open to reach out and learn more about becoming a partner.
And ultimately, it all ends on this big aspirational thought. It's a call for us to work together, a challenge to take all that potential just sitting there in your network and use it to build something way bigger. So I guess the only question left to ask is, are you ready to join in?